John Steed and his partners turned the Avengers into Britain's most unforgettable spy adventure. But behind the tailored suits were stories no one saw coming. One star smoked up to 80 cigarettes a day. Another nearly drank himself to death with a bottle of whiskey every night, while 22 episodes vanished from television history forever. This is the side of the Avengers fans never knew. Diana Rigg. When actress Elizabeth Shepard was dismissed after filming only a handful of early episodes of The Avengers because she lacked chemistry with the show's leading man, the producers launched a frantic search for a replacement at Pinewood Studios. That opportunity went to Diana Rigg. At 27, she played Emma Peel, a brilliant secret agent who combined razor-sharp intelligence, expert judo skills, and her iconic leather catsuit to outsmart and defeat dangerous criminal organizations almost single-handedly. Her breakthrough acting became one of the biggest surprises of the decade. The role elevated Rigg to worldwide fame, paving the way for major honors including Emmy, Tony, and BAFTA awards, as well as her role as Bond girl Tracy Bond in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 1969. Decades later, she would captivate a new generation of viewers as the unforgettable Olenna Tyrell in Game of Thrones. But behind the image of television's fearless heroine was a far less glamorous reality. Despite becoming one of the show's biggest attractions, Rigg eventually discovered that she was being paid less than some of the male technicians working on the production and only a fraction of what her co-star Patrick Macnee was earning. Refusing to accept that inequality, she boldly confronted the producers during the series, demanding fair pay. Her stand ultimately forced the studio to increase her salary, but it also came at a personal cost. She was labeled difficult, demanding, and found herself increasingly isolated behind the scenes. The toxic atmosphere eventually convinced her not to renew her contract, and she left the Avengers in 1968. Walking away from that unequal system allowed Diana Rigg to build a career that lasted for more than 5 decades on her own terms. On September 10, 2020, Diana Rigg passed away at her home at the age of 82 after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. She left behind the legacy of a true screen legend, someone whose courage off camera proved every bit as remarkable as the fearless characters she played on it. Patrick Macnee. In 1961, ABC Television set out to produce a new detective series called The Avengers. At the time, John Steed was written as nothing more than a supporting character, meant to assist Dr. David Keel, the show's original lead played by Ian Hendry. Patrick Macnee took the role when he was 39 years old, never imagining it would define the rest of his career. Calm, eccentric, and famously reluctant to use a gun, Steed quickly became unlike any television hero audiences had seen before. Then everything changed behind the scenes. After the first season, Ian Hendry unexpectedly left the series, forcing the producers to promote Macnee to the leading role. The decision saved The Avengers, transformed Macnee into one of Britain's greatest television icons, and eventually helped open the door to his appearance in the James Bond film A View to a Kill, 1985. But behind that remarkable success was a much darker reality. Although Macnee devoted nearly a decade to the series and helped generate millions of pounds through its international success, especially after it was exported to the United States, the demanding production schedule took a heavy toll on him. During the early years of television, episodes were produced under relentless deadlines using primitive videotape technology, often requiring him to work between 14 and 16 hours a day. Even more frustrating, the contracts of that era provided very little in residual payments, meaning Macnee earned only a fraction of the money his worldwide fame might have suggested. The unfair contracts that defined so much of his career eventually led him to quietly step away from the entertainment industry. During his final years, he struggled with severe arthritis that made walking increasingly difficult. He had chosen a life far from the spotlight and lived at his home in Rancho Mirage, California. Sadly, he passed away from natural causes on June 25, 2015, at the age of 93. Even so, he spent his remaining days in peace, bringing the remarkable journey of one of television's true gentlemen to a graceful close. Ingrid Hafner. When ABC decided to carry several cast members from the medical drama Police Surgeon into its new detective series, The Avengers, the decision opened the door for Ingrid Hafner to join the show's very first season in 1961. She was just 24 years old when she was cast as Carol Wilson, the nurse and receptionist who faithfully assisted Dr. David Keel as he investigated dangerous crimes. Throughout the first season's 19 episodes, Hafner's warm chemistry with the cast made Carol a well-liked supporting character and helped establish her as a promising young actress. But her biggest setback came when the Avengers changed direction after Ian Hendry left the series. The producers decided Carol Wilson no longer fit the new format. Hafner's character was quietly written out, and she was not brought back for future seasons. The abrupt ending to her time on the series became a disappointing interruption in what had seemed like a promising television career and left her questioning her future in the industry. However, she got over it, and she later continued her career with appearances in productions including Take the High Road, 1980 to 1981, and performances at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre. On May 20, 1994, Ingrid Hafner passed away at the age of 57 after battling amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. The progressive disease gradually took away her ability to move and speak, forcing her to retire from acting in 1989. She was survived by her husband, Richard Clothier, whom she had married in 1972, and their 2 sons, leaving behind the legacy of a talented actress whose career was shaped by both promise and adversity. Honor Blackman. In 1964, the James Bond blockbuster Goldfinger became a worldwide sensation, turning Pussy Galore into one of the most iconic Bond girls in movie history. But few people realize that Honor Blackman's decision to accept the role was also her dramatic escape from an exhausting and often painful experience behind the scenes of The Avengers. Blackman joined the second season of The Avengers in 1962, shortly after turning 37. She was brought in after leading actor Ian Hendry left the series, forcing ABC to reinvent the show with a new partner for John Steed. That new character was Catherine Gale, a brilliant anthropologist, an independent woman trained in judo who insisted on performing her own fight scenes without a stunt double. But behind that success was a far less glamorous reality. In an effort to appeal to male audiences, the studio repeatedly required Blackman to wear skin-tight leather outfits that were uncomfortable and physically demanding. Even worse, she suffered a series of injuries during fight scenes because some of her male co-stars failed to control their strength during close combat sequences. Rather than addressing her injuries, the production discouraged complaints and expected her to endure the pain in silence to protect the public image of the show's fearless female star. When her contract expired in 1964, Blackman chose to walk away. It was her firm response to a working environment she believed had become unfair and exploitative. That decision gave her the freedom to build the remarkable career that followed, including her unforgettable role in Goldfinger and decades of success on stage and screen. Honor Blackman passed away from natural causes at her home on April 5, 2020, at the age of 94. She remained mentally sharp throughout her later years and was never known to have suffered from a prolonged, serious illness. Twice married, she devoted her life to her 2 adopted children and was remembered with deep admiration as a woman whose strength in real life matched the fearless characters she portrayed on screen. Linda Thorson. After Diana Rigg announced her departure from The Avengers, the producers launched an extensive search across London, auditioning more than 200 actresses for one purpose: to find a fresh young face capable of filling the enormous void left by Emma Peel. That opportunity went to Linda Thorson, who joined The Avengers in 1968 at just 21 years old. She was cast as Tara King, an enthusiastic trainee secret agent whose youthful energy and quick thinking made her the new partner of John Steed. But the excitement surrounding her casting quickly turned into a nightmare behind the scenes. Producers repeatedly criticized Thorson's appearance, pressuring her to dye her hair, lose weight in a short period of time, and wear wigs because they believed her natural look wasn't fashionable enough. At the same time, many loyal fans of Emma Peel directed their frustration at the young actress, sending hateful letters and blaming her for replacing Diana Rigg. The relentless criticism pushed Thorson into a deep depression, while the production offered little support to help her cope with the pressure. Despite those emotional scars, she continued building a successful career, later receiving a BAFTA Special Honor in 2000, appearing in the Broadway production of Noises Off, and taking on roles in television series such as The Hardy Boys from 2020 to 2023. By 2026, at 79, Linda Thorson lives a much quieter life after 4 failed marriages. As she approaches her 80s, she has faced increasing emotional challenges following the loss of many longtime friends and colleagues. Chronic arthritis has also significantly affected her health, leading her to retire completely from public life. Ian Hendry. Ian Hendry's breakthrough came with the hit medical drama Police Surgeon in 1960, a success that made him the obvious choice to lead a brand new detective series the following year. That series was The Avengers. Hendry was 30 years old when he stepped into the starring role as Dr. David Keel, a physician driven to investigate London's criminal underworld after his fiancée was murdered. What began as the career-defining role of a rising television star eventually became the starting point of one of British television's most tragic downfalls. For decades, Hendry's departure from The Avengers was often linked to the Equity Actors dispute. But behind the scenes, a different story unfolded. The pressure of live television production, combined with his increasingly volatile behavior, contributed to a growing alcohol addiction. He reportedly arrived on set intoxicated, forgot his lines, and frequently clashed with members of the production team. By the end of the first season, he was gone. Although he later proved his talent in acclaimed films such as The Hill, 1965, and Get Carter, 1971, alongside Michael Caine, his personal struggles continued to overshadow his career. The early death of his former wife, actress Janet Monroe, from alcohol-related illness deepened his decline. As his addiction worsened, work became increasingly difficult to find, and by 1980 he was facing serious financial hardship. On December 24, 1984, Ian Hendry died at the age of 53 from a massive stomach hemorrhage caused by chronic alcoholism. Twice married and ultimately left with little of the fame he had once enjoyed, he spent his final years in poverty and isolation, bringing a heartbreaking end to the life of a gifted actor whose greatest enemy became his own personal demons. Patrick Newell. Patrick Newell's unmistakable large build and gift for dry, satirical comedy immediately caught the attention of the producers as they searched for the perfect actor to play a wheelchair-bound intelligence chief. He was cast in the recurring role of the mysterious spy master known only as Mother in 1968, when he was 36 years old. Mother was a powerful but eccentric intelligence boss who directed secret agents from his wheelchair, issuing bizarre orders with complete authority. Before landing the role, Newell had already made a few smaller appearances on the series beginning in 1965 at the age of 33. His performance as Mother across 20 episodes earned him widespread recognition and helped open the door to later roles in The Ghosts of Motley Hall and the film Young Winston, 1972. But behind the scenes, the demands placed on his appearance became a troubling burden. Determined to preserve Mother's distinctive look, producers reportedly pressured Newell to maintain his heavy weight. He was expected to keep his body at well over 130 kilograms, so the character would continue to match the image audiences had come to recognize. Years of living with severe obesity placed enormous strain on his heart, forcing him to pay a heavy physical price while pursuing the career he loved. In the end, those health struggles led to a heartbreaking outcome. On July 22, 1988, Patrick Newell died suddenly of a heart attack in London at 56. He left behind his wife and 2 children, bringing to a close the life of a gifted character actor whose unforgettable performances continue to be remembered by fans of British television. Douglas Muir. Douglas Muir was 57 years old when he was cast as the original intelligence chief, known by the code name 110 in The Avengers in 1961. 110 was portrayed as a calm, authoritative leader who remained behind the scenes, analyzing classified intelligence and developing strategic plans for the field agents investigating dangerous crimes. But the harsh conditions of early television production would soon take a devastating toll on the veteran actor. During the bitter winter of 1961, filming at Teddington Studios often took place in damp, freezing conditions with little or no proper heating, while actors worked long hours under powerful studio lights. The demanding schedule and difficult environment reportedly contributed to serious health problems for Muir, who developed chronic pneumonia during that period. What should have been a memorable 10-episode run instead became an exhausting physical ordeal. The consequences of those difficult working conditions followed him long after he left the series. Douglas Muir passed away on November 30, 1966, at 62, only a short time after leaving The Avengers. His declining health and the strain of working well into his later years brought a quiet end to the life of an actor who had appeared in numerous classic British television series, including Z-Cars and The Saint. He died with little public attention, closing the career of a respected stage and screen performer whose final years were marked by declining health. Philip Maddock. "Don't tell him, Pike." That unforgettable line from Dad's Army has long been voted by readers of Classic Television magazine as one of the funniest moments in British television history. It was delivered in response to a cold, intimidating German U-boat captain demanding to know the identity of a prisoner. The actor behind that unforgettable one-episode performance was Philip Maddock. Long before creating that iconic television moment in 1973, Maddock had spent more than a decade establishing himself as one of Britain's finest screen villains. Born Philip Arvon Jones, he trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, Radio, became an accomplished linguist fluent in several languages, and performed with the Royal Shakespeare Company, where he played Iago in Othello. He joined the Avengers in 1962 at the age of 28, portraying 5 different villains between 1962 and 1969, including Eric Van Doren in the episode Death of a Batman. Maddock also became a familiar face to Doctor Who fans, appearing 4 times throughout the series. His performances as Solon in The Brain of Morbius, 1976, and the Warlord in The War Games, 1969, are still widely regarded as 2 of the greatest villain portrayals in the show's history. In 1981, he surprised audiences by taking on one of the few heroic leading roles of his career, portraying former British Prime Minister David Lloyd George in The Life and Times of David Lloyd George. The performance further cemented his status as a cultural icon in his native Wales, where he was also a passionate supporter of the Welsh Nationalist Party, Plaid Cymru. His first marriage to actress Ruth Maddock lasted for nearly 2 decades and produced 2 children, a son and a daughter, before ending in divorce in 1981. He later married Diane Harmer, although that marriage also eventually ended in divorce. Philip Maddock passed away on March 5, 2012, at 77 after a short battle with cancer. His death brought to a close a career spanning more than 50 years, leaving behind the legacy of one of Britain's most respected and memorable character actors, whose unforgettable villains remain classics of British television. Julie Stevens. Julie Stevens caught the attention of the producers and joined the 2nd season of The Avengers shortly after turning 26. She was cast as Venus Smith, a glamorous nightclub singer who unexpectedly becomes caught up in espionage cases and uses her intelligence and resourcefulness to help John Steed solve dangerous investigations. But the producers' attempt to experiment with a new format soon turned into a painful setback for the young actress. Venus Smith received harsh criticism from many television reviewers of the time, who dismissed the character as little more than an attractive distraction that weakened the sophisticated spy stories. After using Stevens' glamour to promote the series, the producers quickly wrote her out when audiences responded less enthusiastically than expected. According to Stevens, restrictive contract terms also limited her ability to perform songs associated with the show outside the series without sharing a percentage of the profits with the studio. Rather than allowing that disappointment to define her career, Stevens chose a new direction that proved far more rewarding. Leaving the Avengers behind, she went on to become a beloved BBC children's television presenter on the long-running program Play School, where she spent many successful years entertaining a new generation of viewers. Julie Stevens passed away on December 5, 2024, at 87 after a lifetime devoted to the performing arts. In her final years, the actress, who shared a happy marriage with actor John White and raised 2 children, faced an advanced battle with Parkinson's disease, which gradually affected both her movement and memory. She died peacefully, leaving behind the legacy of a versatile performer who overcame early setbacks to build a long and fulfilling career. Edwin Richfield. With his deep voice and sharply defined features, Edwin Richfield became one of the most recognizable character actors on British television, spending nearly 3 decades playing intelligent, intimidating villains. That commanding screen presence helped earn him a place on the Avengers in 1961. He was 40 years old when he appeared in the series for the first time, immediately proving that his voice and unmistakable look were perfectly suited to calculating masterminds who challenged Britain's secret agents with carefully planned schemes. His remarkable versatility across 6 episodes between 1961 and 1968 led to an extraordinary distinction behind the scenes. Alongside Patrick Macnee, Richfield became one of only 2 actors to appear throughout all 6 seasons of The Avengers, returning each time as an entirely different character. That rare achievement made him one of the series' most dependable performers and built on the reputation he had already earned through productions such as the classic science fiction film Quatermass II, 1957, and the television drama The Troubleshooters. But life as one of Britain's finest character actors was not without its hardships. Behind his long and respected career was a private life marked by personal struggles. His marriage to actress Jan Holden ended in divorce in 1973 after the couple had raised 3 children together. The emotional strain of that separation stayed with him throughout the later years of his career, just as Britain's film and television industry entered a difficult period of restructuring. Like many veteran actors of his generation, Richfield faced increasing financial uncertainty as opportunities became harder to find. Edwin Richfield passed away on August 2, 1990, at the age of 68. Although he never became a major leading star, he left behind the legacy of a consummate character actor whose talent and professionalism earned the lasting respect of audiences and fellow performers alike. Terry Richards. The terrifying cybernaut, the mechanical killing machine capable of stopping a moving car with its bare hands and smashing through its roof with devastating karate strikes, was brought to life by Terry Richards. He was 33 years old when he created one of the most unforgettable villains in the Avengers. Richards wasn't introduced as a star. He came to the set to perform dangerous action sequences, risking his body across 5 episodes as the silent assassin who challenged the series' iconic duo of secret agents. That willingness to throw himself into every stunt eventually made him one of the greatest stunt performers of his generation. His career later took him to the Star Wars universe and, most famously, to one of cinema's most iconic moments, playing the black-clad swordsman who is abruptly shot by Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. But the very costume that made the cybernaut so memorable also created one of the harshest realities behind the scenes. To achieve the character's intimidating robotic appearance under the intense heat of the studio lights, Richards was required to perform inside a heavy metal suit with virtually no ventilation. The physically demanding fight scenes, combined with the suffocating costume, caused him to collapse on set from heat exhaustion and severe oxygen deprivation. Even more troubling, productions in those early years offered stunt performers very little protection. Specialized safety equipment was virtually non-existent, and dedicated medical teams were rarely present during filming. Like many stunt performers of his era, Richards accepted enormous physical risks as part of the job, and the injuries he accumulated stayed with him for the rest of his life. In his later years, Terry Richards lived with chronic pain caused by decades of stunt-related injuries that had taken a lasting toll on his body. He passed away on June 14, 2014, at the age of 81, leaving behind the legacy of a quiet hero whose greatest performances were often hidden beneath a mask. So that's the Avengers cast in 2026. From television legends and unforgettable performances to heartbreaking losses and remarkable legacies, their journeys were every bit as extraordinary as the series itself. Which cast member surprised you the most, and who was your favorite character from the Avengers? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Then and Now updates.